Welcome to Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast, the AEW Dynamite recap for February 26th, 2026. With me tonight, well, you guys know who he is, WCW veteran, author of Looking Up at the Lights, the one, the only Robbie Idol. Also with me, the co-host of Rasslin Memories. You guys know him as well. I'm talking about none other than the Grizzled Vet. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good. Before we get into this exciting Dynamite last night, I want to talk about someone that meant a lot to me as a kid. It's kind of a childhood hero of mine. And I want to recognize him for Black History Month. I'm talking about a true trailblazer. I'm talking about none other than the Junkyard Dog. Before the national spotlight, before the action figures, before wrestling became mainstream pop culture, there was a man who electrified arenas with charisma, power, and undeniable presence. The Junkyard Dog wasn't just over with fans, he belonged to them. In places like Mid-South Wrestling, he wasn't just a top star. He was the attraction, the main event, the hero. At a time when opportunities for Black wrestlers at the top of the card were limited, Junkyard Dog shattered barriers. He became one of the first Black wrestlers to draw massive crowds as a babyface in the South. Fans of every background stood on their feet when Another One Bites the Dust hit and JYD came dancing through the curtain. That wasn't just an entrance. It was a fucking movement, people. It really was. Long before many of us had ever heard of Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, that's not as the guy truth. I know some maybe scratch your head. What? Before you heard of Hulk Hogan or even Ric Flair, look. This is during territories. This is before cable TV, before Hulk Hogan became that national household name, even before Ric Flair was introduced to those of us who watched Mid-South Wrestling. So yes, before Hogan and Ric Flair, we knew JYD. He was strength. He was energy. He was connections. Kids looked up to him. Families cheered him. He made people feel seen. I would dare to say that the Junkyard Dog back then for kids was what John Cena became for kids in his era. The Junkyard Dog proved that charisma transcends race, that heart matters more than hype, and that authenticity wins every time. His impact opened doors for generations who followed, from Ron Simmons to Booker T and beyond. This Black History Month, we don't just remember the Junkyard Dog. We celebrate a pioneer. We celebrate a draw. We celebrate a culture icon. And most of all, we celebrate a man who helped change professional wrestling forever. And guys, I'm going to be honest with you. It's not just Black History Month that I often talk about the Junkyard Dog or even remember, because the Junkyard Dog for me was one of the reasons and one of the first experiences for myself when I experienced for the first time a little KG watching Mid-South Wrestling, when I first experienced real emotion, when I think I first experienced the first time I truly hated to heel. Junkyard Dog was part of that. It was a match between the Junkyard Dog and Ted DiBiase. They were tag team partners at the time. They were good friends. They had each other's backs. And then there was a match. I can't remember the reason why the match. Forgive me. I think it was the #1 contendership. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just know that they were facing one another, and I was torn. Who do I cheer for? Because I also love Ted DiBiase. After all, again, he had the Junkyard Dog's back. There was a point where Ted DiBiase was accidentally thrown outside the ring by the Junkyard Dog. And as the ref was, I don't remember exactly what he was paying attention to. The Junkyard Dog was trying to get to his friend Ted DiBiase, if I remember correctly. He was outside of the ring. But the ref kept on trying to stop the Junkyard Dog, thinking the Junkyard Dog wanted to attack Ted DiBiase outside of the ring. Well, while the ref was doing that, for the first time, at least first time I ever seen, Ted DiBiase put it on that loaded glove. And as the Junkyard Dog turned and stuck his head between the first and second rope to check on Ted DiBiase hit the Junkyard Dog and knocked him out. First time I ever witnessed a heel turn for Ted DiBiase, and I was devastated. And immediately I felt hatred, as one would feel hatred for a heel, not hatred for the man in real life, although I was a kid, maybe 9, 10 years old. I was devastated because he betrayed the Junkyard Dog. And so the Junkyard Dog, and even Ted DiBiase, we're talking about the Junkyard Dog right now, that's what he means to me. I think about the first real emotion I ever felt watching professional wrestling because of that storyline between the two. Grizzle, what you got for me?
You've said a lot already, man. The Ted DiBiase turn, which of course led to eventually led to a loser leaves town for a time, wasn't permanent, for match which DiBiase won. Junkyard Dog had to leave town, and we've talked about it a couple episodes past. Stagger Lee showed up.
Yep.
Looked a little bit like Junkyard Dog. Maybe just tad, maybe a little similar. But Stagger Lee showed up as a result of that. And then as soon as Stagger Lee had his run, he left, and the Junkyard Dog was then allowed to return back to Mid-South Wrestling. Very, very convenient in that fact. But we've talked about guys like Ernie Ladd, Wahoo McDaniel that played professional football. Junkyard Dog was actually a professional. He was supposed to play for the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. So, JYD, another one. A lot of athletes who came out of there, like I said, JYD, Wahoo McDaniel, Ernie Ladd, they all played pro ball before they got into wrestling. So, pardon me. But, and JYD was a champion before. He was a world champion. Obviously, Ron Simmons is still considered the first black world heavyweight because he was the NWA heavyweight champion. Junkyard Dog was Mid-South, but he was North American champion. He was at the top of the card, like you said, when most black wrestlers were still an attraction or kind of a mid-card guy. JYD was, at the top of the card, and the fans in Mid-South, you heard that chant. It was, who dat thinks they can beat that dog, and people stepped up to the challenge. JYD was another one was a trailblazer. He was a popular, and you can't forget his feud with the Freebirds, the infamous hair cream where JYD was blinded. And the great thing about it, and this shows just how much of a guy he was as far as keeping kayfabe and all that. His daughter, they had a daughter during the time when he was supposedly blinded. They said in the storyline, JYD is not able to see his baby daughter because he was blinded by the Freebirds, which pissed the fans off even more. If you watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode on JYD, I'm sure you've seen it. Yep. Jim Cornette tells a story, and I think this is a great story, whether or not how much of it's actually true. Even Cornette says it. But JYD is sitting at ringside, and he's blinded, so he's got the bandages over his eyes. He can't see. And there's the match going on in the ring. I think it's Michael Hayes' ring. A fan comes up to ringside, the right behind JYD, and pulls a gun and is going to shoot Michael Hayes for blinding JYD. JYD is torn. Do I stop him and show everybody that I'm not blind and blow the whole storyline? And luckily a police officer intervened and took care, so he wasn't. But at the time, he wasn't going to. He's like, oh shit, what do I do? Which kind of goes to show you just the dedication to kayfabe, the dedication to the story and all that. I mean, myself personally, I'd have been screaming, "He got a gun!" But that's just me. And also, he wrestled Nick Bockwinkel. He beat Nick Bockwinkel. You look at JYD and you see you don't think scientific wrestler. You look at Nick Bockwinkel, one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. He beat Nick Bockwinkel. That's another thing with his record. Then he went to WWF and became even more popular because he was so over with the kids. He would pull kids in the ring and dance with them after the match, and they would, dance with the JYD. He was over with kids. He was like a cartoon character come to life in the WWF, which did hurt his career.
Right.
Then he left WWF, went to the NWA or WCW. He was a dudes with attitude. He was part of the storyline where Sting defeated Flair for the title in 1990. He wrestled Ric Flair at a Clash of Champions. Up until 91, and he came back in like 93, won the WCW 6-man tag team titles. JYD was always on the card, always in the middle of the card, and always over. everybody loved the Junkyard Dog.
Yeah, we recently last year lost Hulk Hogan, who arguably is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in professional wrestling. And although many will say the Junkyard Dog, as beloved as he didn't reach that top tier that Hulk Hogan did. He wasn't per se that household name. But there's only truth though for certain people, because I can tell you that when we lost JYD, that his death affected me the way Hulk Hogan's death affected so many people in the wrestling industry, both fans and professional wrestlers. Because again, growing up watching wrestling before we ever had cable TV, before I ever heard the letters of WWF, before I ever heard of Hulk Hogan, Junkyard Dog was my guy. He was my Hulk Hogan, right? In many ways. So when he passed, I mourned him. I did, because that was, I get emotional talking about it now, because that was such a huge part of my childhood, a huge part of memories with my father, who I lost watching Mid-South Wrestling. Junkyard Dog meant the world to so many people. So although he may not have reached that level of, say, your Hulk Hogan's, or even maybe your John Cena's, that's only true for a certain part of the world, I believe, because there are parts of this country that he did reach those levels.
Well, you got to think though too, in the '80s, though, he didn't reach the level of the Hogan, but he definitely made his money off of the popularity of Hogan. Because remember Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling. Remember that
Yep.
cartoon?
Yep.
JYD was in that cartoon along with Andre, Roddy Piper, Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That was the voice of the Junkyard Dog.
Yep.
So even though he wasn't like the main eventer, he wasn't the Hulk Hogan level, he was still just as popular, with people, Junkyard Dog, Tito Santana, those guys. You needed those guys just as much as you needed Hogan. You might have had Hogan on the top of the card in New York City, but in a smaller town on that same night, you might have had Junkyard Dog in the main event, because there was an A town, there was a B town. Hogan obviously headlined the big city, but you could easily see Junkyard Dog, or Tito, in the main event on the secondary show, the B show.
Yeah, and
he was not hurt.
And I'm going to be honest with you guys. As a kid, I watched Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling. The only reason why I ever turned on WWF at that time was because of Junkyard Dog. Because, and I've said this many times, growing up watching Mid-South NWA, very different wrestling back then compared to the WWF. Now, what the WWF was doing at that time worked for their area. Very popular, obviously. Very, very popular. But I grew up watching more, I always call it, Mid-South Wrestling, NWA was was really the first Attitude Era. It really was, because it wasn't cartoonish. It wasn't, the gimmicks there were your Kamalas, or, it didn't have your silliness that WWF did. It was more of your reality base, is what I consider it. So I when I was introduced to WWF after we got cable, couldn't get into it. Wasn't a Hogan fan because it was too cartoonish, even for a young kid, because of what I grew up watching. But then when Junkyard Dog went on there, I would turn to watch the Junkyard Dog. And then I got into wrestling, and eventually I got into Hulk Hogan, especially when he went to the WCW. But Junkyard Dog, he was my guy back then, even before Flair Hogan. Robbie, what are your memories of JYD, man?
He came through Florida Championship Wrestling like between 78 and 79. So I don't remember a lot of him in Florida. So my memories of him is in WWF, watching him in the WWF. So that was my memories of him. And I liked him, he did, like you said, he definitely grabbed your attention and everything.
Yeah.
My memories of him are, when I first saw him, he might have came through Florida, but, I was like a junior, senior, and So how much I watched wrestling, plus I was bouncing from
Right.
house to house. So, but he didn't like stand out here. So they didn't really like use him here.
Mhm.
But when I did see him, it was WWF.
Yeah. We were talking about Ernie last week. We talked about, just the tone of his voice grabbed your attention. Was the Junkyard Dog the greatest promo cutter? Especially according to today's standards? No, he wasn't. But again, he had that tone in his voice that grabbed your attention when he did cut those promos. Grizzle?
Well, no, promo-wise, he wasn't. But no, he had that tone. And part of the Junkyard Dog's appeal, in my opinion, is he was a common guy, not borrowing from Dusty Rhodes. Men go to the matches. Now you see the Junkyard Dog, and you're thinking, "Fucking Dog can do it. I can do it." Dog looked like a guy that you'd go to the bar and have a beer with. Dog reached out to the people. He was one of them. He was not flamboyant. He wasn't coming in fancy robes. He grew up in poverty. He grew up in a one-room shack with his mother and his brothers. He did not have anything. So he came from almost nothing to become the Dog, but he never was a flamboyant, over-the-top character. He was the common man. He was the everyman. And at that time of wrestling, that's what appealed to people. You wanted that guy that you went, yeah, he can do it. That dog can beat this guy. And that's what you wanted. So when Dog got on the mic and he said, I'm going to whoop somebody, you knew that was going to happen. You believed Dog because he sounded real.
Right. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of professional wrestlers, and it's been great. But none has ever, for myself, has meant more to me than the opportunity I had when I met the Junkyard Dog. There was another wrestler by the name of Sonny King. And when Mr. King retired from professional wrestling, he was originally from Louisiana. He moved to the little town I was from called Donaldsonville, Louisiana. And his son went to school with me, and I became pretty good friends with his son. And Mr. Sonny actually would bring professional wrestling to the small town of Donaldsonville. The Ric Flairs would come there. But oftentimes, when these guys would come to Baton Rouge, they'd come visit Mr. Sonny. And I had the opportunity to meet the Junkyard Dog because of Mr. Sonny King. And I was, maybe 13 or 14 then. And even at, a teenager, it was such a thrill to be able to meet, someone that meant so much to me as a kid and still did, to be honest with you. So I had the privilege and the honor to meet the Junkyard Dog. And again, he meant to me what Hulk Hogan meant to a lot of those kids, as well back then. So, and I'll be honest with you, I wish I could end the podcast on this note, but nope. We got to talk about AEW Dynamite.
Yay.
Last night for myself was tough to watch. Now, Robbie, he said it was too, because maybe I thought it was me, because I thought maybe, just maybe, man, I have been watching all week long the WrestleMania vault on Netflix. So I've been watching every night, WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania. And when you're watching WrestleMania, you're getting these massive matches, these great matches, these exciting matches. And a lot of it's very nostalgic as well. So I thought maybe I let myself down by watching all this WrestleMania and then turning on AEW Dynamite. I said, you know what? Maybe I feel the same way even I was watching Raw last night. That it's been a tough watch because I'm coming off of watching all these WrestleManias. But apparently not, because Robbie, he said that was a tough watch for himself. Grizzle, where are you at with it?
Well, I'll be honest. I had to go back and rewatch some of it because I fell asleep. Watching it at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's going to do it to you. It was uneven. Right. It started off kind of, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about some of the promos. We'll talk about whatever that was in the main event. That main event threw me off so bad. That main event just soured my entire opinion of the show. I'll be honest. I don't know what your guys' take on it is, but I almost shut off and said, hell with it.
We'll get to the main event. I felt like that the first part of the main event and we'll get to it. Once it kind of, if you will, settled, I was able to get a little bit more into it. And again, we'll talk about it. And in no way am I saying that the performers, the talent, were terrible, because they wasn't. Most of the matches were fine. It was the production of AEW last night that really made it difficult for me. I don't know, man. That, you know, some nights when you watch AEW, the production feels so much bigger than other nights. Last night, it felt like they hired amateurs, production-wise, to, you know, produce the whole show as far as the camera work and just the feel of it. It was just way off. We did, you know, it last night. They were live from Colorado. The commentary team was Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and Nigel McGuinness. I'm going to be honest, no disrespect to Nigel. He's not my favorite color commentary person. And he was part of the reason why I felt off last night, was because he was on.
See, I'm different on that. I like Nigel.
Yeah, see, Nigel, to me, Schiavone, Nigel, and your boy from WWE.
Danielson?
No, from WWE.
Bryan Danielson.
Michael. Yeah, no, I'm talking about Michael.
Oh, Colin Graves.
You're just talking general guys. Okay.
No, I'm talking about color commentary. What's his name again?
Corey Graves.
No, not Corey Graves. Michael Cole. Michael Cole. Wow, why can't I remember his name? They're not my favorites. Michael Cole, Tony Schiavone, and Nigel McGuinness are just not my favorites. I can listen to Taz and Excalibur all night long. But yeah, those three guys, they always throw me off. Match number 1. Well, and by the way, let me say this though. In no way, shape, or form, I could never do their jobs. I've tried to call matches on the fly in Vegas during the podcast. They wanted me to kind of call the matches. Never again. I sucked at it. It's fucking hard. It really is. It is harder than just saying there's a headlock or an arm drag, or it's a difficult fucking job. So God bless them. But voice-wise, just not my favorite. Start off with Jon Moxley versus Al Clone. Again, it wasn't a bad match. Robbie, I know you're not a Jon Moxley fan, but it wasn't a bad match. But at the same time, I wasn't sitting on the edge of my seat for this match either. And Robbie, we'll start with you. Where are you at with this match?
Well, here's what happened. I turned it on. And of course, Tony, please do not start with Moxley anymore. So probably 5 minutes into the match, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was 10:30. So I had missed the whole show. So I had to watch it this morning. So
I had problems.
I went back and watched it again. Moxley, I'm just not invested in him. I think he's boring. I think his promos are brutal. I don't see the attraction. I mean, I don't see the attraction if you make him the wild thing when he comes out, whatever. I don't get it. But the match was okay. I mean, he's had better matches like with other people. This one just didn't do it for me.
You know, and I said this before we went live, before Grizzle came on, joined us. When it comes to with Moxley and with Bob Gunther, you guys kill me with it, because Jon Moxley and Gunther, especially Gunther, in a way, especially the promos, they remind me of the old NWA Mid-South days, the type of promos that they cut. And that's your era, both of you guys, and yet you guys think they're boring, and it boggles my mind. Are you saying your era of professional wrestling was boring, man?
No, but okay, so but like the people, you know, I had Dusty. I watched Dusty Rhodes do promos. So Dusty was Dusty. We'll go. Jack Briscoe wasn't probably one of the better promo guys. You know, you had Dory and Terry. Terry was Terry. You had other people, and a lot of those, you know, you had Bobby Shane. Who else? You know, Paul Jones. I wanted to say Tom Jones, Paul Jones. Gary Hart was there. You know, you had with Pac Song. So you had there like a lot of the guys I saw, no, the promos were cool. That you looked forward to that stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, like I said, Dusty was Dusty. You know, Dusty captured you. Terry captured you with just, you know, his mannerisms and stuff. Trying to think who else. You know,
Yeah, but you know what? I get what you're saying, but come on, man. The percentage of guys, even the best guys, I mean, even your John Cena's, they're never going to ever be your Dusty Rhodes or even your Ric Flairs. I mean, you know, there's so much charisma, especially behind Dusty Rhodes, that there's a very small percentage of guys throughout professional wrestling that they could even reach that bar when it comes to cutting promos. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, some of the, I mean, you're like your guys of today and stuff. They grab your attention. I mean, like, okay, I'll even say that now the kid that they brought up, and you know, we're going off script here a little bit or going away from different show,
That's
but
right.
Trick Williams
Mm-hmm.
can cut a good promo.
You're right, but I think that Trick is going to fall into that small percentage of guys that just checks every single goddamn box there is.
You know, I mean, I like Seth.
But I see what you're saying.
But Seth Rollins can cut a good promo.
Right.
You know, so you have guys that grab your attention. Just to me, the way Moxley does it is just, to me, is boring. It's just boring.
See, I mean, Moxley kind of reminds me, and Grizzly, you may not see this, and you know, I want you to speak up on it. When I'm listening to Moxley talk, he kind of reminds me of a cross between a Tully Blanchard and a Ole Anderson. He really does. And that's just me. You know, what about you, Grizzle?
I don't agree with Robbie, and I don't agree with Bob either. You know, I like Moxley.
Right.
I like Gunther. I don't know how Gunther, especially. I don't know how that man can be considered boring in the least. Moxley, I'll give Robbie a little bit because he tends to do the same, you know, 2-3 moves. He tends to bleed way more than he should. So,
right.
But I mean, two, Moxley's probably more. His promos are great though. You know, I mean, I can see a little Ole in there, and with the growl, I can see it. And you know, his promo, you believe his promos. You know, he's not just saying nonsense. It makes sense. Opening with Moxley, I don't know about that. And this match didn't do much for me because I don't understand El Clone. I don't get what the gimmick is. I hate the fact that they do a major move on his neck and he just bounces right back. This man is not built like Road Warrior Hawk.
Well, it's because he blocks it. If you watch the one you're talking about, the spot where he bounced up, is because he caught himself with his hands and he's able to push himself back up. I think the whole gimmick with El Clone, look, he's not my favorite, but I think his own gimmick is, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but for me, his gimmick is he actually clones other wrestlers as far as their move styles. He steals other moves, and that's what he does. And real quick, Terry, good evening, gentlemen. Terry, again, always, brother, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. You're faithfully watches this podcast. I think you are our number one supporter. You really are. I appreciate that. But yeah, have you guys seen that where, he stole other people's finishers? Or am I just maybe I'm drunk watching fucking AEW at the time. I don't know. Or tired. I should say tired.
It could be. I just don't get the gimmick that could make sense because it kind of changes from match to match what he does, but I just don't like the no sell on the neck maneuvers or whatever. It's just too much. But
yeah. Terry says our AW is no sell, but you know what? That's an interesting point. Going back, I was talking about I've been watching WrestleMania Vault, and one of the biggest complaints I hear from so many people are about false finishes. Today's wrestling is false finishes. Today's wrestling is no selling. You go back, way back when, to some of these WrestleManias, there's a lot of false finishes. There's a lot of no selling. I think the difference is it's not every fucking match, right? I think that's the difference. I think back then, professional wrestlers or the bookers, whoever wasn't charged backstage. I don't know exactly. Robbie, you may speak better than I could on this. Someone was watching each match and was telling the performers, hey, this is what happened in this match, and make sure you don't do the same shit. So I think the problem with today's wrestling is no one's telling a lot of the guys to not do exactly what the fuck was done in the previous match. I think that is more of the problem. You know, everyone wants to have that one move to make the fans go, holy shit, because they didn't sell it, right? Or the holy shit, we thought that should have been a finish. You can't do that, in my opinion. You should have one match that has those things, because then the show becomes more special, because that one match becomes more special. Grizzle, respond to that, and Robbie, you next, because you really have the insight on those things, being that you were, you know, a professional wrestler. Go ahead, Grizzle.
Robbie's going to have more of an insight on this than me, but I agree with you. And I know from promoting shows, that the 3 shows I did, and then helping with shows out here in Texas, and listening to the guy running, the promoter, the booker, they would tell the first match, stay in the ring. Don't do any high, fly maneuvers or whatever. Because later on in the show, somebody else was going to be fighting outside the ring, and another match was going to be do some like high fly maneuvers. And if you're giving the fans all that in that first match, they're not going to give a shit by the second or third. You know, AEW gives you everything all right there at the beginning. El Clone doing all this. Okay, well, what happens if 3 matches down the card, that same move is done to somebody else, and they're laid out and like, oh, that guy's kind of wimpy. That laid him out. That other guy bounced back up like no problem. You can't. You got to build. And I know we told our guys, that first match, don't go crazy. Don't throw, 100 moves into 5 minutes, because you're going to kill the rest of the card, because the fans aren't going to give a shit about the other matches, because you gave it all to them already. You got to build to it.
Yeah. Is it a matter of not giving a shit, Grizzle and Robbie? I'll go to you. You can answer this. Or is it a matter, especially with your live crowd, is there such thing as fans being emotionally fatigued? In other words, you're giving them so much shit that by the end of the fucking show, they're kind of going to be silent. They're not going to be as into it, because they're just emotionally fatigued from having so much given to them at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they're emotionally fatigued. Watch a WWE pay-per-view. When you see that match, you go, whoa, holy shit. And then the next match that follows it, and the crowd's just dead, because they're exhausted. They just saw 20 minutes of high speed, high flying, intense. Whoa. And now the match kind of slows down. They're just like, that's why it's called, what is it? The bring down, or the go down match that kind of brings that crowd back down, gives them a chance to kind of before the next thing happens.
Yeah. Robbie, you're the expert with it and all of this, man. Where are you at with all of this?
See, like you're talking about the era I came from, so you didn't have a lot of guys doing a whole bunch of high flying and stuff like you do today. So guys, didn't say, hey, don't do this, don't do that, because the styles were kind of, you did have some guys doing stuff off the top, but not like today's wrestling, so a lot of the guys, you didn't have that build up or whatever. They didn't you didn't have people watching the match going, okay, Steiner's just did the Frankensteiner, so you can't do it, because there were guys that just couldn't do it.
Right.
So you didn't have this, most, they would keep certain things to, like if you were going to have, let's say, a bunkhouse match, okay, that was whenever, like maybe that was the main event, and, you kind of built up to it. So, they, with that, yeah. And you have like, where you've given everybody so much that they get fatigued from seeing all it,
Right. Yeah. Because I have to imagine that back in the day, say Ric Flair was in a match, and Ric Flair was known for his nut shots, right? I have to imagine that the guys knew before his match, the heels, to don't do fucking nut shot. That's Ric Flair. He's fighting tonight. You don't do that.
Right.
Am I right or wrong here, Robbie?
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. So certain stuff that guys would do, the other guys wouldn't do.
Right. Yeah. Next, again, Moxley won that match. Next, we go to promo. Swerve Strickland comes out, gets on top of the announcer's table. Tell Tony Schiavone to move his fucking ass out the way. He says that, he is the most fucking dangerous man. He had to show that with Kenny Omega. The fans' reactions was very interesting because he didn't get booed out of the building like you would think he would. He just fresh heel turn. We had a good portion of the crowd chanting Swerve's house. He did get booed some though. I liked it. But I'm a Swerve fan because Swerve has like this sense of humor in it that he's not really doing it to be funny, but he kind of is. Like for instance, he's standing on the announcer's table and he kind of bows a little bit and says, "Oh, I see it's reinforced this week after I threw Kenny's bitch ass through it." That made me laugh a little bit. I am a Swerve Strickland fan, and I don't care if he's heel or babyface. Swerve for myself is a guy that I'm not going to boo. I'm just not going to. Robbie, where were you at with his promo?
I liked it. It was one of the highlights for me of the show. I mean, to me, it was, was probably like, if I had to say one, he would have wrestled, it would have been one of the matches of the night. So, I mean, it was one of the best things that happened last night. I liked it. I was kind of surprised, like you did hear some boos, but, not like what you thought. Maybe they'd have booed him out because of who Kenny is. Kenny's Kenny Omega. But yeah, I'm a Swerve fan.
Now, Grizzle, this is what threw my head last night with Swerve. Automatically, I thought about one of the most famous, most brutal feuds in AEW's history, not professional wrestling, AEW, Swerve and Hangman Adam Page. Now, with Hangman Adam Page, and we'll talk about it later, going after the belt, stipulation being if he loses, he can never win that title belt again. And Swerve Strickland regains this title, which he's going to. I'm thinking, man, we're going to have another brutal feud between Swerve and Hangman just because Hangman's going to be pissed, right? And I don't know if I want another fucking feud between those two guys because the first one they had, the way it ended beautifully. It didn't become a Cody and a fucking
Drew
McIntyre fucking feud. That's just endlessly tiring. No, it ended. I don't want to see that happen again. Being that Swerve, what he said last night, he mentioned talking to Hangman Adam Page, talking about he changes his mind. He doesn't have any regrets because he was told Hangman he did. And from now on, that's how he's living his life. Is that where we're going? Are we going to another fucking Swerve being heel, Hangman fucking feud with Swerve accidentally becoming the babyface and fucking Hangman becoming a goddamn heel again? Is this where this is heading to?
I hope not. I'll be honest with you. With everything they did in that last feud, I don't know what they would do to top it, nor do I know if I want to see it.
Right.
And it would be just, as Jim Cornette calls it, lazy booking. Okay, Swerve's the heel, Hangman's got the belt. Let's go back for chapter 7 or 8. Right. Will they do it? More than likely. Doesn't mean we want to see it. Doesn't mean it should be done. But as far as this promo goes, I love the promo. I like Swerve as the heel, but I like Swerve. But Swerve as the heel is good. I like Nana. Nana had a little bit of a, something behind him because now he's got, he's not just out there just whatever he does.
Right.
He's still going to do that though because the fans want him to. As far as fans cheer though or boo and Swerve's house, that's just because no matter what, there's always going to be that section of fans that just be, I want to chant Swerve's house. Swerve's house. I want to chant what? I want to chant, I want to sing Judas. There's always that group of fans that no matter whether they're good, they're bad, they're in between, They just want to do that shit because they think they're entertaining and they're fun. And in reality, it kind of can kill what's going on in the ring because if he's trying to be the heel and you're going Swerve's house, you're killing his momentum. In my opinion,
I agree. Disagree. I completely agree that there are certain fans that do it, but I think there's other fans though that saying Swerve's house still is because we all talk about that it factor. Swerve has that fucking it factor.
He does.
You know,
I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying a small core.
Well, right. That's what I'm saying, and that's why. And I just said, I won't ever boo Swerve because sure he could get over as a heel, but he has that it factor, and I love fucking Swerve. You know, I love Prince Nana. Prince Nana is absolutely my favorite manager out of. I'm not talking about all professional wrestling. There's not many managers these days, but you know, I would take Prince Nana even over Paul Heyman, and I love Paul Heyman. I'm not saying that Prince Nana is anywhere near where Paul Heyman is at as far as mic skills, but personality-wise, charisma-wise, man, I'll take fucking Prince Nana all goddamn day long over Paul Heyman for myself. Grizzle?
Well, I agree. You know, Prince Nana is very, charismatic, but I wouldn't put him over Paul Heyman. I wouldn't put anybody over Paul Heyman. Once again, disagreeing with the Bob factor because I saw a couple comments he made about Paul Heyman. You know, I love Heyman.
I love Heyman too. I love Heyman too. It's just between the two. You know, I love Prince.
Nana is as good as Swerve can make him.
Right.
So Swerve is a heel. Nana can be that little prick type manager that's like pumping up the heel. He can do that. Swerve is a good guy. Swerve doesn't need somebody to like set him up and all that. So then Nana kind of fades into the background. Yeah. That's my opinion. Nana is as good as Swerve can make him.
Here's the question for both of you. We'll start with you, Robbie. When it comes to Prince Nana, and we talked about Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman for many years hung his hat on Brock Lesnar. But this is the thing. Paul Heyman didn't need Brock Lesnar for Paul Heyman to be a star. We've witnessed this. We know this. Does Prince Nana need Swerve Strickland for him to be that star? In other words, do you think Prince Nana could be as successful with somebody else? Robbie?
I want to say yes, but I don't think so. I mean, I think the two complement each other. You know, I just think they go hand in hand. I agree with you. I mean, I think Nana has that bigger personality than Heyman, but Heyman has that knack for the business, and he knows how to talk. You know, he just kind of, Heyman reminds you of that lawyer. You know, he reminds you of that lawyer. So he knows how to talk. You know, that, and they put Heyman with people that needed him, like Brock needed him. You know, he was the voice for Brock, and they put him with other people. Even at time, you know, when they put him with Roman needed him in the beginning, you know, and he helped Roman along. Right. So Heyman's that voice. I mean, he has the, you know, as far as like if they got into like a promo, Heyman's better than Nana, but I think Nana has that bigger personality. But I just think him and Swerve complement each other. So I don't know if you put him, you know, you put Nana with somebody else that, you know, that maybe he'd be over as much. I just think him and Swerve complement each other very much.
Grizzle, same question, man. Again, Paul Heyman didn't need Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman didn't need Roman Reigns. If anything, they needed Paul Heyman to help better them. Does Prince Nana need Swerve? Or, no, can Swerve go on to be with any professional wrestler as Paul Heyman can and be just as successful?
No, Nana needs Swerve. It's a package. It's Swerve and Nana. Nana with anybody else just wouldn't fit. And I think part of that is because of how they presented him with Swerve. But on his own, managing somebody else, no. I think he would probably be like another Stokely. guy that's there, but not necessary. I don't think Stokely's necessary really with FTR. I like him, but no, Nana has to have Swerve. It's package.
I
Swerve
think
can go without Nana.
right.
I don't think Nana can go without Swerve.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. I think that
go ahead and do that.
There is a certain type of wrestler Prince Nana would have to be put with. I think Prince Nana with a Trick Williams would work.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely it would. Because Swerve doesn't need Prince Nana for a mouthpiece, just like Trick Williams wouldn't need Prince Nana for a mouthpiece. But Prince Nana is kind of like that scarf that puts together that outfit you're wearing. That's what Prince Nana is for Swerve Strickland. That's what he would be for Trick Williams, I think. There's a very specific wrestler that Prince Nana would need to be put with for him to be successful. Terry Zeller says, I think you're used to seeing Paul, but look at early Paul. He has always been good. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Paul Heyman has always been good. Paul Heyman has never needed a professional wrestler or even a certain type. Paul Heyman has been able to make stars out of a professional wrestler versus Prince Nana. I don't think Prince Nana can make a star. I think Prince Nana needs a star to make him constantly for it to work.
Yeah, Nana's that complementary piece.
Right.
He's just a finishing piece.
Yeah.
But like you said, you have to put him with the right person.
Right. 100%. Next, by the way, also with the Swerve, what else that did was kind of set up for something we've seen later with the most dangerous man in AEW claim, because there's another man who claims he is the most dangerous, and we'll get to that. And I kind of got to call bullshit with this other guy. We'll talk about why. Next, we go to Orange Cassidy and Gabe Kidd. It wasn't that this was a bad match, because it wasn't. This is my thing is I'm exhausted with Orange Cassidy. It's the same, and the gimmick he has. I would honestly love to see Orange Cassidy turn heel. And this is the difference. And a heel Orange Cassidy actually goes in the ring. Because Orange Cassidy is a goddamn good wrestler. When he goes from the lazy gimmick to the next gear, the man could go in the ring. The man is fucking talented. How many people could cut the flips and do the things that Orange Cassidy does with their hands in their pocket? Not very many. He's very athletic. The problem is the gimmick's just old to me, in my opinion. But he could go. So I would really like to see that. A heel Orange Cassidy would be the opposite of what we have in Orange Cassidy. Grizzle?
So kind of like, the black suit Spider-Man is a little bit more different than the super. Okay. Maybe. I don't know. I can't picture Orange Cassidy as a heel. He just is one of those guys you just see being the perennial baby face.
Have you ever seen him on the indie scene? He was a heel.
I've seen some of his indie stuff. Yeah. But I'm just saying, television, I can't see it now. The fans love it. Right. But no, you're right. He's extremely fucking talented. I couldn't even sit up with my hands in my pockets, let alone jump up on my feet. Robbie knows the feeling. I get up in the mornings. It takes me about another 20 minutes to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what he does.
No, not at all.
But no, this was a good match, though. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie?
Yeah, match was fine. I'm not sure, how I feel about Gabe Kidd. I guess I'm not warmed up to him yet. He's, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and just think he's overdoing it as the psycho guy. Maybe it's like trying to overdo it or whatever. But the match was good, and that probably would be cool to see Cassidy as a heel.
Yeah. Terry says it'd be awesome to see Cassidy would work great as a heel. I think the thing with Gabe Kidd is too much like Darby Allin in a way, except he's the bad guy. He's the bad Darby Allin.
Yeah, but he doesn't take the risk, though.
Not to that extent. And something else, look, I get that Gabe Kidd is affiliated with Death Riders. He doesn't need to be. I think Gabe Kidd, and we're about to talk about another guy, Clark Connors, just those two by themselves could be that tag team and both single wrestlers, right? By themselves without watering them down by throwing them in with the Death Riders. That's just my opinion. Post-match, Clark Connors attacks Orange Cassidy. By the way, Gabe Kidd won that match. Darby Allin makes a save and then does a coffin drop to stand tall. I'm over Darby Allin right now, to be honest with you. But Grizzled, are you in agreement that Gabe Kidd, Clark Connors, they don't need to be part of the Death Riders? It waters them down. Let them be exactly who those two are by themselves without being that faction. Or no, they make a great addition.
I don't consider them as part of the Death Riders. I mean, I know they've done stuff with the Death Riders, but they don't come out with them. They don't. Right. So I think they're kind of just on their own. They might affiliate with the Death Riders on occasion, but I don't see them as part of the Death Riders. I think on their own. Part of the problem with them, I think, and not getting over too well is they were primarily in New Japan. That's where you saw them. So only those fans that watch New Japan are going to really know anything about them or know who they are, And I'm not a New Japan guy. I'll watch Wrestle Kingdom. I'll watch highlights, but I don't sit and watch an entire card of New Japan wrestling. I don't watch the TV every week, so
right.
I know who they are because, like I said, I've seen them on Wrestle Kingdom. I've seen some of their stuff, but I'm not that hardcore Japanese internet fan that's, oh my God, it's Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd. Just like when Switchblade came, Jay White came out. A lot of people knew who he was. I wasn't sure. And then when he came out, I'm going, oh, okay, that guy. Okay, New Japan. I've seen him. That's the thing. They bring these guys over. We don't know much about them, so it's hard to kind of establish with them. I mean, honestly, the guy I knew the most of was the Ishii. When he came out that first time, I'm like, oh, yeah, Ishii. I like this guy. I knew he was.
Right. Guys, next we go to Kevin Knight and Mansoor. Look, the match was fine, but this is my problem with it. I'm usually a big Kevin Knight fan. Last night he was acting goofy. Last night he was out. I think he was trying to show more personality than what he normally does within his character. And it was coming across as silly to me. I personally didn't like it. Now, as far as the match goes, the match was fine. I'm not going to hate on the match. Winner is Kevin Knight. Michael, Grizzle, start with you.
I think they could have found a better opponent than Mansoor, but I'm just not impressed with that guy.
Well, I think right now they're just really trying to give Kevin Knight and build him and give him a push.
Yeah.
So they have these different opponents that they're not what would you call guys that are there to just lose all the time, just most of the time.
But I can see what you're saying about it. Did seem like he's a little bit more playing to the fans than he normally does. So I can see why, you might come across as something a little different. It did seem a little off. I didn't really pay that much attention to put my finger on it, but I mean, match was okay. It was just a standard match. It was to put him over. So did his job. There was worse things that were happening in this show, and those are going to come up.
Yep. Robbie?
Yeah, match wasn't bad. I didn't mind the Mansoor guy. He did what he was supposed to do. So you got to give he did a good job at what he was supposed to do. At the end, he shouldn't have took the mic. They should have kept him off the mic.
Right.
And I think part of it's from like when Swerve talked to him of, maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago, saying you could be, the face of this company, whatever. And I think he's trying to come across, hey, look at me, this, that.
But let me stop right there. Here's my question, though, for you, because I thought about that last night.
Okay.
This is my question, man. Is this part of a storyline? Him slowly becoming this guy that his ego seems to be getting bigger and bigger, right? Is this more of a storyline that he's going, because he's starting to become a little bit more and more cocky each and every week? Go back and watch since then. Go back and watch last week, him talking shit when he's facing Mordos, right? So, and I'm like, man, are they setting this up where him and Speedball Mike Bailey are going to break up because Kevin Knight is becoming too cocky, and we're going to see a heel Kevin Knight here the next coming months to give him that push, starting with a feud between him and Speedball Mike Bailey. Robbie?
I didn't look at it that way, but that could, I mean, we've seen it in the past with, you take tag teams that you hate to see them break up and break them up and do that and, do the feud and stuff. You saying that, it's possible.
You know what's funny about what you just said? You said tag teams that were coming to next. We're coming to you, Grizzle, with the same question I just had for Robbie about being part of a storyline. But it's funny because you talk about tag teams we hate seeing break up. With Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight first got together last year, I didn't like it. Wasn't a big fan of either one of these guys. But man, they grew on me. And now they've got to the point that I don't want to see them break up. They're two guys I consider a legit tag team that AEW needs, right? And I don't want to see them break up. Grizzled, do you think us seeing a little bit more of that character that we see Kevin Knight come out to, a little bit cocky even at times, do you think that's possibly part of that storyline of him becoming this really cocky guy that's going to turn on Mike Bailey?
I kind of with Robbie. I don't see that happen. I think maybe you're maybe not saying you're reading too much into it, but I think that's just maybe that's what you want to see. So right. You're finding it. I don't see it. I don't see that big.
I would say it's something I want to see. It's just Kevin Knight. I'm a big fan.
You're not want to, but would like to see.
Well, it's not even like. It's again. I'm a fan of Kevin Knight, and just the past couple of weeks, I'm like, this is off his character. Like, it's a little annoying, actually. Especially last night. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? So I want an explanation for it, more so that I want to see them break up, to make it make sense to me.
But the promo wasn't good. It just wasn't good.
Well, even during the match where he was blowing kisses at Monsoon, but
that was kind of
him. Yeah. I think he was supposed to mock him, but there was just something about him during the match last night that I'm like, this is not the same Kevin Knight. So I don't know. But the promo was what it was. Next we go to the world title contract, Hangman, Adam Page, and MJF. Hangman, of course, will never challenge again if he loses. MJF says, look, I'm so confident that I'll leave it up to chance 50-50. I'll flip a fucking coin. If the coin lands one way, I think it was tails, then it's a one-way DQ match. In other words, I can do whatever I want. I can beat the shit out of you, but you use one weapon against me, you get disqualified. He flips, and that's what it is. Adam Page says, I can beat the dog shit out of you even with this dog shit, match, one-way DQ match. And as MJF is leaving, Adam Page says, but wait, how stupid do you think I am? Let me see the coin. Then MJF's like, fuck you. Goes to go backstage. And then, of course, we have a just beat Kevin Knight. Pushes him back out. Then he goes to go the other way. And then we have the other most dangerous man in AEW and his partner push him out. Force him. Takes the quarter. Throws it to Adam Page. And, of course, it was a double-side quarter. So this is what I didn't like. Well, I'm like, oh my God, really? Tony fucking Khan, Tony Schiavone, whoever you are, give it goddamn 30 seconds before they say that, Khan is in your ear saying, well, because MJF did this is going to be a Texas death match. It was pretty much right away. Let it be more authentic. Let it be more realistic, for the love of fucking Christ. That was my one issue with that. Otherwise, it was okay. I didn't hate it. Grizzle?
Um, I'm always a fan of MJF in the ring, but this one kind of fell flat for me. As soon as he said 50-50, I'll flip a coin, I just went, shit.
Yeah, we knew what was going to happen.
You knew what was going to happen. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a fake coin. Right. Somehow. Okay, all right, he gets his stipulation. Oh, wait, nope, no, he doesn't. Okay. As soon as he said, I'll go 50 and flip a coin, that promo just ended for me. Because I'm like, okay, Texas Deathmatch, Hangman, Adam Page versus MJF. Done. We didn't need the rest of the. As soon as he said coin, it was over for me.
Right. Now, this is why I did not. I am against a Texas Deathmatch with these two. And I'll tell you
because it's a stupid match and Tony Khan doesn't know how to book it right.
Well, but it's more than that. You're right. But it's more than that. And I'll tell you why.
MJF isn't a death match.
MJF and Hangman Adam Page, say what you want. I like them both. I'm fans of both of them. But they're pretty boys. They are not going to give you the traditional Texas death match. I assure you. They're not going to fuck their own bodies up the way a Texas death match is supposed to. And if you think, let's go to the match between Hangman Adam Page and Strickland, the lights out match, the non-sanctioned match that we had, the final match, the controversial match, where a needle was stuck through Swerve's fucking mouth that fucking sensitive ass people lost their minds over. The guy that was taking most of the damage that could fuck you up for the most part was Swerve Strickland. It wasn't Hangman Adam Page. He took one bad bump. That was with the cinder blocks, right? Mm. But besides that, go really think about it. Swerve Strickland was taking the nasty shit. It's because he's a pretty boy. MJF is as well. As fine of wrestlers that they are, and they're extremely talented, and I think they're going to have amazing matches, both of them, throughout their careers. This is not a match for these two guys, in my opinion. So, no, I didn't want this match. They're no Terry Funk. That will rip his fucking face off his skull to prove the realism of a Texas death match, right? Robbie, do you agree with me, or nah, man, you're being too harsh on these two guys?
No, I totally agree. I mean, the bigger swerve would have been MJF walked off and let it be the original match that he called. I mean, that would have been the biggest swerve, and I would have been fine with it. Yeah. But as soon as the coin, like everybody else, it's two-sided, and the same thing. Yeah, I totally agree. I think, and you pointed it out. With when it was Swerve and Hangman, Swerve took most of that of the beating and stuff. So yeah, it's not a match for you could have did something else, but not a Texas death match. Not with either one of them. I mean, you'd have been better off just sticking them in a steel cage.
Right, Grizzle, as you're falling asleep on air. Man, am I right here? Is this really the match for these two guys?
No. I hate a Texas death match in AEW. Tony Khan shouldn't book it because it's a last man standing match. If they did a Texas death match that was you have to pin your opponent and then they have till the count of 10 to answer, the bell, and then the match continues. Okay, fine. I'll let it slide. Let them have it because you actually have to have, pinfalls. You actually have to have it. This one you don't. You just have to knock your guy out and you can't answer a 10 count. That's a last man standing match. Yeah. They just call it Texas death. So MJF and Adam Page in a last man standing match. No, we don't need it. Not necessary. You're right. MJF has done some spots where there's been some blood. Adam Page has too. I don't think they'll give it the serious.
I don't think it was legit though.
It's not going to be serious it needs. If they booked it as an actual traditional Texas death match between the two, okay, then I might see it. Because at least there's that factor of, okay, you got 10, but you still have to answer the 10. It would give it a little something. This is just knock the shit out of your opponent until he can't answer the 10. And I don't agree with it. Not for these two.
And for the fans out there that's going to talk shit, look, I'm not saying that I need a match where I'm going to see two professional wrestlers fucking try to murder each other inside the ring, right? I am not the guy that's, I have to have hardcore matches or death matches. No, I love traditional professional wrestling, 100%. What I am saying, though, is when you're going to have a match like that, that specific match that was specifically made famous by Terry Funk for a reason, you're not honoring what the match truly is. You're not honoring what Terry Funk did when you're going to have a very watered down match that they're going to have. Sorry, that's my feeling on it. Next, a match that many people I think was excited about. I think Grizzle, maybe I misread whenever you sent this match to us. I don't know if you was being sarcastic, or maybe you were excited, which is fine. Brody King versus Mark Davis, which on paper sounds great, but the match was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was just two meaty men basically fucking smacking each other. It wasn't a technical match. It wasn't a match that was overly exciting. You know, they did what they could do for guys that size. It wasn't a bad match by any means. I'm not saying it was a bad match. It was a fine match. Those guys were very talented. I think they're very talented. But it's not the type of match that I'm running to my TV to watch either. Robbie?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was him. It was George that was joking.
Oh, was it George?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I said anything about it because
Yeah.
I basically
I
got what I expected.
I stuck up for you, Grizz.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
I know that was sarcasm because George is an AEW guy.
Right. Yeah. I like Mark Davis, and I'm not a Brody King guy. I just, but it lacked. It was okay, but it lacked, if that makes sense.
Yep. One of my issues with having this match and why I didn't want it to take place, once again, Mark Davis, before, what's his partner's name that's injured? My brain is blank with his name. Jake Doyle. Before Doyle and Mark Davis was put together, Mark Davis was the guy that was taking L after L with the Don Callis family. Then they finally, even though they talked to him like he was a monster, about him like he was a monster, then they finally put him with Doyle. And these two look great together. And by God, it looked like they were going to do something. They were dominating. They were beating people. And then Doyle, unfortunately, got injured. Now Mark Davis is back to being that guy that's taking L's with the Don Callis family. Another loss for Mark Davis. I don't want to see this. I want Mark Davis to be protected until his partner comes back. I don't want to look at him and Doyle now and say, really? All of a sudden now Mark Davis is this badass after he couldn't fucking beat fucking Moxley, after he tapped to fucking Moxley, right? After he fucking, Brody King's big, but let's be honest, MJF just beat Brody King. I don't want to see this out of Mark Davis right now. I want to see him fucking protected. Robbie?
Yeah, no, I agree with you because if you keep doing what you're doing, when you go and when Doyle comes back, if you just keep giving loss after loss to him, the fans are just going to, lose interest in him. And then when you bring Doyle back, there's no interest in him. And it's nothing that Doyle did. It was what they did to Davis.
Right. Grizzle. Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you up again.
What? No, I was looking somewhere over here on that one.
Yeah.
But anyways, no.
No, I mean, do you agree with that? That, they're not booking Mark Davis the way they should be booking him if they want to, when Doyle comes back, to push them as this dominant team.
It's what we said when it first happened. Mark Davis is going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
He's just going to be another big guy. I didn't say anything about this match. It's exactly kind of what I expected it was going to be. Right. It's just going to be, as some of the guys I talked to call it, just meat slapping meat.
Yep.
It's two big, heifers just going at it, and just that's what I expected.
Yeah.
Doyle and him were a good tag team. People have forgotten when we first saw Mark Davis. It's because he was part of Aussie Open.
Yep.
Which was him and Kyle Fletcher, which basically he was, to use terms that we know here, he was the Neidhart to Kyle Fletcher's Bret Hart.
Right. And
it worked for him. That's what works for him. He needs a partner. Honestly, I think he's better tag than he is as a singles.
Yep. After the match, we get a promo from King, who's calling out Swerve for Revolution because Brody says, no, I'm motherfucker. I am the most dangerous man in AEW. But are you really? I think they've messed that up. That is come and gone. I don't think he's the most dangerous guy anymore because no longer do I look at him as the most dangerous guy anymore in AEW. Nor does he sound like the most dangerous guy in AEW anymore.
No,
I think that boat has fucking sailed, unfortunately. I think if they wanted him to be the most dangerous guy, they should have put a mouthpiece with him. Should have kept him silent. Should have kept him as this fucking beast. A guy with really not much of a personality except he destroys you in the ring. We've seen too much personality of him when they put him with his fucking little guy, his partner, from the bounty hunter. No, what was his name again? Bandito, right? That to me, that was not a good decision, in my opinion. Grizzle?
I had no problem with Brodito, actually. I kind of
they showed he had too much personality. When you book some guy that looks like him, that's going to be this fucking beast, this killer, you can't have that much personality, man.
Well, no, they're not booking him as a beast by far. And no, he's definitely not the most dangerous man in AEW. And honestly, I don't think a match with him and Swerve Revolution would be all that good. Not necessarily a match that I'm going to be like, holy shit, let me get my popcorn and soda. I got to watch this.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Again, for a guy his size, he can move. I am a fan of Brody King. I think he's a decent wrestler.
He is.
There's just certain things, though, that just not working.
Talking doesn't work with him. He doesn't have the voice for it. It's like listening to Mike Tyson talk or whatever. You know, in the ring, he's going to whoop your ass. Outside the ring, no.
And you're right. And that's what killed it for me, was him talking and me seeing him in a fucking sweater. Robbie?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, because for the whole I'm the baddest man in or whatever the hell they're saying he is. So correct me, maybe I missed something along the way. I've never seen him in a hardcore match. I haven't seen him in any like cage matches or any of that stuff like you've seen with Swerve, where you've seen.
He hasn't been.
Then so how can you book him as or say that? I mean, it's just bullshit. The dude hasn't given you a hardcore match or anything. So to say, oh, this is the baddest man in the business or whatever, and you haven't had like one of those matches. So at least Swerve has had those matches. He's been in War Games. He's been in like those kind of matches. I've never seen Brody King in one of them. So you can't put him in there.
I am sorry, but when you're as big as Brody King and fucking Darby Allin beats you clean, you're not the baddest guy anymore, dude. Darby Allin would be the baddest guy, you know.
Yeah, but Darby's been in those matches, so you know.
Darby beat an Uber driver. I'm telling you. You guys heard that story? Seen that video?
Of what?
Darby Allin and the Uber driver.
Yeah, I read about it today. Dude was kicked out the car, but you know what?
I saw the video.
Fuck that Uber driver. That Uber, and this is what amazed me was the amount of fans that was taking up for the Uber driver. Oh, Darby Allin should have been talking, you know, in his vehicle, or he should stay at home or studio. I'm like, or maybe the Uber driver shouldn't be in a fucking business where you're picking up people who live their fucking lives these days. Not just Darby Allin. Everybody lives their lives on their fucking phone these days.
Pretty much.
Yes. Go through the grocery store and you think they're talking to you when you're looking around.
I did an interview on my lunch break one time. I ran back to the break room and just put in some earbuds and did an interview on my lunch break. So
yeah.
You do what you got to do.
Right.
And I'm not Darby Allin, so I can just imagine how his schedule is.
Right. So again, fuck that Uber driver. 100%.
Yes. I mean,
fucking pussy.
That's insane. 1 star. That's 1 star, delivery right there.
Oh, I had a bad day, so I don't want to hear you talk. Well, what about, you know what? You have an option. You did not have to pick up somebody today. And you don't lose your job if you turn down picking somebody up, from what I understand. So fuck all the way off. All the fucking way off. Next backstage, guys, we go to Okada proposes teaming with Kyle Fletcher, Proto Kata for a TNT title or for a match on Collision. They're just building up again that they're going to turn on Kateshka, yeah. I mean, that's exactly all it is. They're, Takeshita's going to get thrown out of the Don Callis family. Renee Bouquet, this is what kills me. Normally, when you have two heels being interviewed, that interviewer helps sell the fact that these guys are heels. They help push that these guys are heels. Go watch most fucking interviewers. Oh no, not Renee. I think that's a great name. What the fuck? As Hulk Hogan says, that don't work for me, brother. That just annoyed me. I almost turned it off at that point.
I have to agree with you. I thought that with the laughing and everything, I went, dear God.
Look, that was so bad that I almost wished I was Tony Schiavone fucking doing the interview. Okay?
Don't say that around Robbie.
I don't know if he would have done any better, though.
Grizzle, come on, man.
They didn't need the promo. It was just to sell Collision on Saturday. And you're right. Eventually, Takeshita is going to leave because, honestly, Kyle Fletcher's in the group, but I think Takeshita is probably one of the best ones they've gotten the Don Callis family.
Yep. How long has Okada been having that fucking title belt that used to be, the Continental, IC, both combined, unified belt, which is
he's been Continental for over a year, and they unified the belts. So how long has he held the unified belt? I think it's only just been half a year, but he's been the Continental part of that unified belt for over a year.
Yeah. How often I don't remember the last time he defended it.
Well, we don't even know what the title is anymore because now Moxley's the Continental champion.
Yeah.
So they're not unified anymore.
Right.
So I guess that makes him the international champion, even though it's a Continental championship belt. I guess. No. I don't know.
Next week,
Tony brings in another belt.
Next week, it's the most chaotic part of the night for myself. The main event, the Mile High Madness 10-man match. FTR, the Demand, the Young Bucks.
You skipped a match.
Did I? Which match?
You skipped the women's tag match.
Oh yeah, you're right here.
And the thing I really wanted to talk about was that fucking FTR Young Bucks promo.
Oh, go ahead. For some reason, whenever you call the matches on Monday night, the first hour, you mentioned 411. Instead of me taking all the notes last night, I just did that. So 411 skipped it then. Fucking fucks.
Yeah, they had the promo with FTR and the Young Bucks.
Yes,
go ahead. Young Bucks talking about, this, that, and then FTR, we did this. You did it. You super kicked Stokely. Yeah. And what did we see? What did we see, guys? Them super kicking Stokely. Yeah. Wasn't that the same fucking thing that they had to cut the week before? Why could they cut it last week, but this week we can show it? I saw that and going, why'd they cut it last? Now it makes cutting it last week gets even more stupid.
Hey, Grizzle.
Yes.
Grizzle?
It's just wrestling.
You're thinking about it too much, man.
So do you, buddy. It's just wrestling. But that stuck out like a sore thumb to me. It's like, bam. I'm like, well, wait a minute. You couldn't show it to it last week, but now we can see it in living color in a flashback? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I skipped the Women's World Tag Team title match because
Bob's not here. We don't have to talk about Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford.
Yeah, you're just not a fan. Sorry, guys. Not invested.
I hope Penelope's okay.
I honestly think I think when she did that moonsault, she did something because you could kind of see the look on her face.
Yeah. Of course, talking about the Baines of Variath versus Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Grizzle, Robbie and I both couldn't remember the young lady who's now with them.
With Megan?
she came out in Australia at the
Yep.
pay-per-view.
Because she's the one that, before
And
the
then
match
she came
ended,
out
took a
last
chair
night
to
again.
fucking took a chair to
yeah, I know who it is. I don't know the name. She showed up at Grand Slam Australia.
Yeah,
that's
and I can't think of her name right now either.
What is it, like Alyssa or something, or Alyssa?
Possibly. I'd have to look. I would
It
have to look.
starts with an A. It may be Alyssa or something like that.
Well,
she showed up and hit him with a chair.
Regardless of her name, I apologize, fans. But DQ, the Basil Wrath won it because of DQ, because she took the chair to Willow Nightingale. Again, I am not invested in this match whatsoever because I'm not invested in any of these ladies whatsoever. And something else that I skipped that I wanted to talk about was the not the Angry Birds, the
Brawling Birds.
The Brawling Birds.
Yes, these two ladies cut a promo last night, and they're trying so hard.
Her name is Lena Cross.
Yes, Lena Cross.
Okay, so
But the Birds last night, the Brawling Birds, they tried so hard to come across as edgy or hard by saying, not only do we not give a fuck, well, what do you think? We can't say that. We don't give a flying fuck. I got to be honest with you. I didn't give a flying fuck about that promo either.
I thought that was
stale.
I thought that was pretty funny, so I got a kick out of it.
I do not remember this promo. Like I said, 5 o'clock.
You don't remember? I remember because
had to repeat it.
Because it was forgettable. That's why you don't remember it. Because look, it didn't. This is my thing with cursing in professional wrestling. Curse words. It's one thing if it occurs just out of a natural. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This was forced. And when it's forced, it falls on deaf ears, at least when it comes to me. It doesn't come across as edgy. It comes across as just being hokey. And that's what I thought.
I agree. Remember back in the days of the Attitude Era when Bret Hart got pissed off on Raw? This is bullshit. And you were like, oh.
Yeah.
Because it was shocking.
Right.
You didn't say that on TV.
Yeah, he said, fucking go to WCW.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't do that on TV. Now it's shit. You're just like, oh, well.
Yeah. Like, look, I'll be honest. To go, as Robbie says, off script a little bit, talk about another promotion, WWE. During the segment when John Cena or The Rock and Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, so. And Cody Rhodes' answer was, fuck no. And that's what he exactly said. It was fuck no.
No, he said go fuck yourself.
Yeah, he said go fuck yourself, right? That seemed natural. And it did. Because if someone came to me and said, I'm going to take everything you have and you're going to let me, okay, I'll respond with go fuck yourself. That to me wasn't so hokey. Last night was. Or Robbie, was Cody Rhodes, did that come across hokey when Cody Rhodes told Rock to fuck himself?
No. I mean, like you said, it was genuine. And I mean,
and it doesn't happen all the time. Rarely. AEW, look, this is the thing with AEW that gets under my skin about AEW. It's like they're trying so fucking hard, to be what WCW and WWE was back in the mid-90s. One would call it the Attitude Era. This is the problem. The Attitude Era wasn't something that was created or forced. The Attitude Era was an organic thing, not because of writers, not because of bookers, but because of the fucking talent you had in that locker room back then. You will never have that again. You cannot force that. You cannot create that. You will never have that level of those stars in professional wrestling and one promotion. You never say never, more than likely ever again. You can't force it. You can't force edginess. And that's what AEW constantly seems like they do. And I wish that they would stop, because the shows, go back and watch it. You guys and the guys who listen, and all you who are listening to this, go back and watch those shows that we really think are, wow, that was a great Dynamite. It's because it was actually a wrestling show. They didn't try to force the fake bullshit edginess like they do on a lot of the shows that were like, Whoever can respond.
I can see that. No, they force things. They use the language too much. They're too, controversial. They don't need to be.
Right.
They weren't like this when they first started, and fans flocked to it. But now they got to be controversial. But WWE's kind of the same way in some way too. They got to do things different, kind of push the envelope a little bit. You don't have to. Right. They're doing it for TikTok views. Right. They're doing it for reels, so that you have that clip you can watch and go, whoa, because it's like a little 30-second clip of something cool.
In WWE's defense, though, right? And George, this will prove to you that I love WWE as well. In WWE's defense, they do it from time to time, but it's not every single promo.
No.
And it's not every single fucking match.
No.
So at least when they do it, and it does come across as hokey, and I call them out on it, at least, though, at the same time, it's a little more special in a way because they don't do it so much. Robbie?
Yeah, I mean, because like you said, with the Attitude Era, think about it. We'll just go one group, one faction. So you had DX. You had Shawn and Triple H. You had Road Dogg. Those three mouthpieces. You can't. There's nobody in AEW other than MJF that meets that.
Wait, let me stop you right there. And that's exactly the point. MJF being the way he is, this guy who pushes the cart, the edgy guy, that's truly MJF, I believe. I truly believe that's part of his personality. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, X-Pac, that's truly who they are. That is really part of their personalities. It was turned up a lot, but it came across naturally because that was natural for them.
Right, and Road Dogg and and you go The Rock and Stone Cold. So the personalities that you had there, you don't have that other than one person, and that's MJF. Yes. And MJF is that. What you see, you see that it isn't anything different. Anytime you see clips of MJF, like somebody hands him a WWF belt or E belt to sign, he signs it and he throws it on the floor. He'll mock.
Which was great, by the way. And what I loved about that was so many fans got so asshole about that. And I'm like, my God, you should have been like, that was awesome because he's a fucking heel. Right. That's what a heel would do in a rival promotion.
But even like there was a thing, he signed something like a Mets helmet.
Yeah.
For some kid. And I can't remember the comment he said to the kid or whatever. But he never broke character.
Right.
That's him the whole time. Yeah. You don't have anybody else that's like that.
Right.
Some of the greatest things about MJF is, he'll do those meet and greets and the kids are getting their picture with him. I think part of it is because the parents want it. And the kids standing there smiling. MJF is just, yeah.
One of the greatest
like things, a bird right in the kid's face. You're like, yeah, it works.
One of the greatest things that ever happened to AEW's autograph signing was when a parent became livid because MJF made his kid cry. I thought that was great. What the fuck do you expect if you're going to bring your kid that little to an autograph signing of MJF of all people? Good possibility that he's going to make your kid and your wife cry. Might even make you, Mr. Man, cry.
I got a story I can tell you real quick. This is just a little sidebar thing. One of my adventures. I was promoting a show in California. I think it was our third show. One of the guys that wrestled for us he wrestles as the devil himself, Derek Drexel. And he comes out and he's got the full white psycho suit on thing. And he comes out to do his bit. He do his entrance. Goes up to a kid, just gets right into his face and screams at the kid as part of his entrance. Gets into the ring. Well, the kid got so scared he started crying he threw up. Part of the problem was his father was filling him full of junk food the entire show. But anyways, scared the kid so bad he threw up. After the match, I'm backstage with Derek and a couple of the other talent. We're talking. All of a sudden, guy comes through the curtain. It's his father. He's got the kid with him. And I'm like, hey, you can't be back here. And he goes, I want an apology. He scared my kid. I'm like, sir, you're not going to get an apology for, I'm not leaving until he apologizes. And he was flipping out because the devil scared his kid. Derek looked at him, and in the greatest thing I've ever heard, went, I'm sorry I scared you, but I'm the devil, and the devil does bad things. And then just walked away. The dad accepted this and left. And also might have to do with the fact by this time we had like probably 1,000 pounds of wrestler that would have made him go right back through the curtain. But the father came backstage because my wrestler scared his son so bad he threw up. And he wanted an apology. I was just like, the fuck is going on back here?
Yeah, the guy,
you know what? Leave quick.
In any fan that goes to, there's two, and I'm a fan saying this, and Robbie, tell me if I'm wrong, man. In professional wrestling, there's two sacred places in professional wrestling and an event. One of those places are in the ring, and other places in the locker room. I don't care if you're media, and I don't care if you're a fan. I don't care if you're invited. In my opinion, nobody should be in those two places, especially the locker room. Maybe the media in the ring, invited for interview. I understand that, but especially in the locker room. What, as a professional wrestler, Robbie, what is your take on that?
No, I totally agree. You just, because that it is sacred. And we've talked about it, a little bit, like them even, WWE's the biggest culprit of pulling back the curtain, exposing the business. I mean, like I said, that just goes against even, against the whole thing I was brought up with when I was in the business to that. And like, even when I wrote my book, and I think I made a comment in there when this goes against everything I was taught,
right.
It was, but by the time I wrote my book compared to everybody else, I was the 5,000 guy that has exposed the business where, you had bigger names that have exposed it over me. So.
Yeah, and you didn't do too bad at exposing the business. Getting back to this, guys. So again, we talked about the winners because DQ Babes of Wrath. Now let's get to the main event. FTR, the Demand, the Young Bucks against the Rascals and Jungle Jack Perry. This was
Young Bucks.
Yeah, I said the Young Bucks.
FTR and the Demand versus the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and the Rascals.
Yeah.
You lumped Young Bucks with FTR and Demand.
Oh, sorry. So this was the first part. The first part of the match is what I had issue with. Now they've done this before, and I hate it. They kept the fucking entrance music going, and that's what they did for Jack Perry's entrance music for the first half of the match. Kept it going. It drives me fucking nuts because I don't think in any other sport that was a legit sport, UFC, boxing, that would fucking happen. And then they cut, I think it was 4 different screens on your TV because everyone's everywhere. So that was fucking way distracting. Didn't like that. Then they got into the ring. That's fine. Look, actually, it was insane. I didn't have too much of a problem with it until Jack fucking Perry pulls out a goddamn fucking vacuum cleaner from under the ring.
I knew this was going to get him.
Now, look, we've seen crazy shit beforehand in professional wrestling. Attacks, broken glass, a sledgehammer, obviously tables and chairs. Fine. I'm over AEW doing stupid shit like this. It wasn't not too long ago that, what was it, snow shovels they came out with?
I was going to say
it was a snow shovel and a vacuum cleaner, and it was the Jurassic Express.
Yeah. Fucking seriously.
They can't get good weapons. Sorry.
Tony's on the budget.
Jack's invading Jack is going after the maintenance cart. Okay, sorry.
Grizzled Vet.
I knew this when I saw this spot. I'm like, oh fuck, KG's gonna lose his shit because it was stupid. But no, as far as the show goes, like I said, it was an uneven show as it was, and this just threw it off the rails for me. When the match came, I'm like, okay, 10-man tag match. Fuck, that's a lot of guys. Okay.
With great talent, by the way. Good talent they had this match.
It was. And it said 10-man tag match. I'm like, all right, fuck, okay, we've done these before, okay. But then I realized it was 10-man tag, anything goes match, and I went, oh shit. And then when they came out, like you said, the music played. The same thing as Kenny Omega when it was let the bodies hit the floor, yes. And then it finally stopped, and then Kenny Omega got the crowd to cheer to start it over again. It's like, no, I don't need musical background for my so I can't wait to hear Jim Cornette's review of Dynamite this week, because he hates that shit too. He's gonna skewer this thing. But then I'm like, okay, God. Then it splits into 4 screens, like you said, and I'm like, what am I supposed to watch? So after a while, I just said, fuck it. I just kind of stared.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt for a second. Not only did they split 4 screens, but 3 of the screens was so fucking dark, you really couldn't even see.
Yeah, they're fighting in the crowd or in the back area. Yeah. So I finally just said, hell with it. I waited. Then it got into the ring, and it went to 1 screen, but it was still just this person here and here and here and here. And by that point in time, I was so sick of the 4 screens that I didn't bother to catch up with it. I saw the vacuum cleaner spot, thought, oh shit, KG. The Rascals doing their thing. That one spot when the guy went over the top and did the flip to do the power bomb.
Yeah.
And then I thought that was cool, because that just shows you the Rascals. Those guys are really good at the high flying spot. So I like some of the spots, but it started off chaotic. It started off loud. It was hard to follow. And when it went to 1 screen, I didn't care. I was just waiting. And then we had the winner, and I'm like, okay, good, show's over. The main event just threw the whole show off the rails for me. Well, I was not, and I'm a guy who likes watching Stadium Stampede, which is multi-screens, but usually it'll go to this segment, then you'll go to this, then you'll go to that. You're not trying to show 4 fucking scenes going on at the same time. I was not a fan of that.
Let's talk about spots for a second. Let's talk about an unnecessary spot. And let's talk about fucking fans. And this is my opinion. I'm not a professional wrestler. Nor could I be at this stage of my life. I have nothing but respect for professional wrestlers.
Neither could Robbie at this stage of his life.
Nor would I ever say anything professional does is bad in the ring, because, again, I couldn't do it. But at the same time, I don't believe professional wrestlers has to listen to what the fucking crowd chants all the time. And this is what I'm talking about last night. We had already have 3 or 4 different fucking table spots, and the crowd kept on chanting, one more table. And one of the most ridiculous spots that I thought was so fucking dangerous that shouldn't have happened last night was, I can't remember it was FTR, the one with the hair.
Cash Wheeler
literally did a suicide dive, or whatever they call it nowadays, out through the top, in the middle of the ropes, right head first into the fucking table. That could have been really fucking bad. Really, really, really bad. I was, holy shit, like, please let him hit this right. Robbie, in my opinion, that was just unnecessary and just uncalled for.
Yeah.
You're feeding the fan, and this is part, and I'll shut up and go through this. Part of the problem with AEW, in my opinion, of why we're talking about Darby Allin, why it does the stupid shit that he does every single time, is because they condition their fans to that stupid shit. And this is how they condition their fans. Their fans are screaming, one more table, and they decide to give it to them after there'd already been 3 fucking or 4 table spots. Robbie?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that one was like but they take, AEW does those unnecessary risks. You go to too many of them. In a match, so they didn't need that spot. So, but like, I agree with you guys, because it was funny when they went to the 4, like, one of the screens, if you like, you're kind of trying to watch, at one point I was trying to watch all 4. One, there was like empty. The whole screen was just, there was nobody near there. So why you even put that screen there made no sense.
I think that maybe there probably was someone there, but it was so fucking dark you couldn't even see it.
That's a possibility too. Who knows?
Yes. I mean, like Grizzled said, there were some cool spots. Like, I liked the spot the Rascals did where the kid did the flip, and then his partner just pushed him, and he wound up landing on the guy to go to cover.
Yeah, he does the standing moonsault. Yeah, that's one of their main spots they do.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. I had never seen that before, and I was like, "Wow, that's different." But I knew you were going to lose your shit when I saw the vacuum cleaner come out. I'm like, he's pulling stuff out, and it's like, when after he like took the kendo stick and threw it, I went, "Oh, please don't go pull out what I think you're going to pull out." And here came the vacuum cleaner.
Look, my wife was sleeping on the sofa. I was sitting in a recliner, and I literally said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And my wife's like, "What? We talk about it? Nothing's just wrestling."
I'll say
Oh
she
God,
was
really?
sleeping on the couch.
I mean, yeah, it was all over the place and stuff, but it was, to me, the match of the night, because you didn't have anything else that was the match of the night. So that kind of did it, just because of it being chaotic and everything like that. And then, and you missed one interview, and I'm surprised. Well, you probably were trying to run through it. But
No, I'm not. Go ahead.
It makes no sense, because now they're kind of, to me, they're making her look weak with.
Oh, you're talking about fucking Statlander and fucking
Thunder Rosa. And Thunder Rosa
and this is the thing about that. And I think we talked about this last week, and you both disagree with me, which is fine. But I don't agree with Thunder Rosa getting a title spot right now, because she just got back. Yes. Is she good enough to have one? Well, absolutely. She's a former women's champion. Matter of fact, I'll go as far as saying that she is probably one of the best, if not possibly the best female talent on the roster. But in professional wrestling, in any sport, it doesn't matter how good you are when you come back after you've been gone for over a year. You have to go back and prove yourself again. So she should at least have, I don't know, a month worth of matches before she's number one contender, in my opinion. And they're just throwing away this match because I don't think that they're going to have Tekla drop this title to her so quickly. But then again, I said the same thing with the match with Ciampa against fucking
Kyle Fletcher.
Kyle Fletcher, and as Kyle Fletcher mentioned last night, fucking old Pinky, as he calls it, and I love that, by the way. I love what he said. This isn't Psycho. This isn't Susie, or whatever the fuck the name is. This is Pinky. That was awesome. But Ciampa had it for what, 2 weeks? He called him out on it, and it's true. So I don't know. Maybe they will. I just don't see it though, because it seems like they're really high on fucking Tekla right now. Go ahead, Robbie.
Yeah, but I mean, I could see Tony, and I know you'll disagree with me, but who were the two big Japan girls that were there in AEW in the beginning? And they must be back in Japan, because one was the one little girl,
Rio,
and then there was one other one. So you had two.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
I remember Rio. I can't think of the other one right now.
And so, but wasn't Rio the champion?
She was the first women's champion.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, I could see him doing, like, if they bring them back, them getting a shot at the title too. If maybe as soon as the first week they bring them back. It's just they do things different,
And again, I get it. It's professional wrestling. I understand, but I do look at professional wrestling as an authentic sport. I do. It may be predetermined, but it's still an authentic sport, and I like for certain things just to make sense, because they do it all the time. And that's my issue, is the inconsistency. You have AEW always doing these matches, these contender matches at that, right? But all of a sudden you're just going to throw Thunder Rosa that match. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, I will say that, and although I think it's going to be silly, because Statlander went from heel to, for no rhyme or reason, babyface, I have a feeling that she's about to fucking turn heel, and she's going to turn on Thunder Rosa, because she's kind of acting goofy with her. You better watch your back. Better be careful. Yeah. And, she was even asked, well, what are you talking about? And she just kind of looked at her like, you're fucking stupid, and walked off. I hope they don't do that, because, again, it would make no sense. None whatsoever right now. Grizzle?
Well, yeah, wouldn't she's gone from heel to face. It wouldn't make sense to change her back. Yeah, I agree with you. I still don't agree with you though that Thunder Rosa doesn't deserve a title shot. I think it's easy to put her back in.
I didn't say she
And
didn't deserve it. I said it doesn't
okay,
make
but
sense.
yeah, I have no issue with her getting a title shot.
Yeah.
Also, the Japanese wrestler, I believe, Robbie, you're just talking about is Hikaru Shida.
Yes.
It could be, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the other one. Hikaru Shida was the other girl that was there at the very beginning with Riho and all that. So,
Yep.
I think that's who you're referring to.
Yep. Guys, that takes care of Dynamite. Look, I'm going to give it an A+ for effort. I'm just joking. I you know what? I have to give it a C. Grizzle?
I'm going to go with a C- just because of the chaos. And to say it was the best match of the night, that just goes to show you that the rest of the show was shit. The main event blew it. I mean, it was already just kind of an off show, but this time it was just like that was the train that went off the rails when that match started, and it never caught. I gave up. I'll be honest. So C- for me.
Yeah,
well,
I'm going, Robbie. I'm going to agree with you about match of the night. I'm going to, I think it's because of your dislike for this person. But I think the Moxley match against El Clone should have been the main event last night. And I think because of the match, it was there was a lot of technical in that match, if you compare it to all the matches. And I think that was actually the match of the night. I think
I
that instead of the match of the night,
KG.
Yeah, instead of the match of the night, I was going to say the spot of the night, because the spot of the night belongs to Swerve Strickland last night.
Yeah, and Swerve. So my grade, you're being generous. Mine's a D+, and the only reason why they get the plus is because of Swerve. Swerve's promo was, to me, that was the highlight of the whole evening. To me, that was so that I just there. I mean, out of all the matches and everything, there was like nothing. It was like, they're okay, but not wow. There just wasn't a wow match.
Yep. Now, guys, somebody did last Thursday. And by the way, Grizzle, man, I know you're tired. You work long hours. I get it. So if you want to go ahead and get off, you can. But we have to finish up. We started last week, which was Wizard for Rip Rogers. Robbie was answering some questions.
Okay.
And we're going to finish those questions out real quick. So it's up to you. You can stay or you can go get some rest, spend some time with your family.
I'll hang. I'm good.
Okay. So we did most of them. We just have a few questions left, and let's get into it. And for those who didn't watch last week, professional wrestling legend Rip Rogers on social media came up with a list of things that he thinks that should be part of professional wrestling in today's world. So we're talking to our veteran professional wrestling WCW veteran, of course, Robbie Idol, and see if he agrees and see maybe if there's some things that he would even add to that. Last week, we left off with talking about stop pulling the curtain back. So the question, the next thing on the list after that was teach guys to call it in the ring. Robbie, do you agree with that? Or do you think, no, the matches are actually better, maybe a little bit safer with these guys now talking about the match before they get out to the ring?
No, you're better off calling it because that way you can go by how the crowd is. You get the feel for the crowd and everything like that. Plus, I'm probably going to offend some people, but I'm included in this when I say this. Some of us aren't the brightest bulbs in the box there. So you get a 20-minute match, even a 10-minute match, you're likely to, you get hyped up and stuff. You're likely to miss a spot or two, and I mean, so you're better off calling it in the ring. I just think, I see this now with, being on the indie scene. And being part of it and watching these guys, like a lot of the kids. Oh, well, I'm going to do, I want to get my high spot in. You get your high spot in and this and that. And then you kind of watch the match and they've missed some of that stuff.
Right. And you know what? Look, even doing this podcast, sometimes I think I should be talking to you guys before we go live because I forget shit all the time. I say, hey, this is what we're talking about. I mean, it happens. People forget shit. I agree with you with that. Then again, this is why I surround myself with people who are better than me, like you and Robbie. So this podcast can be successful. Next, we talk about
Well,
and I think
let's get Vet's opinion on that. Should they call it in the ring or talk about it, Vet?
well, I was trying to keep it to a professional wrestlers.
Oh, okay.
Hey, thing. I mean, if there's something, if Grizzle, by all means, if you want to add to it, by all means, do.
Well, the only thing I can add to it is it's a story that JBL tells. He's talking about calling it in the ring. He's wrestling Eddie Guerrero. Match is going, and Guerrero says, "Let's do this." And JBL said, "Well, that wasn't part of the thing." He goes, "Let's do this." So they did, and it brought the crowd up. And then the next night they came out, and the crowd was kind of flat. And Eddie goes, "Let's do this," and they did, and it brought the crowd up. So JBL finally, and they were going over their match time. They're supposed to go like say 10, 15 minutes, and they were going like 20. Eddie got to the back and he goes, I gave the crowd what they wanted. That crowd was dying. I brought him back up. You're welcome. Because that's what he was doing. Eddie could read the crowd and hear the crowd going, no, let's do this. You can't do that if you're in the back and you're practicing. And I've seen that where the guy's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I stood in the dressing room with Gary Young, who wrestled, obviously, world class and everything. And he was trying to tell these guys, hey, try this, try this. And all they wanted to do was their spot, their spot, their spot. They flat out ignored him because they had their match figured out the exact way for spot. That's not good.
But this is the thing, though.
Get the advice. Call it in the ring a little bit.
But this is the thing. And this is what sometimes I'm like, a lot of times they're talking about, well, because of today's professional wrestling, right? But you can't really say that because let's go way back to one of the best matches in professional wrestling history. Not because KG said so, but because everybody says so. And it was planned and talked about in the back.
123 spots.
There you go. Randy Savage.
Yep.
123
steps.
Steamboat.
Yeah, but it was Savage that called that whole match.
Right. But here's the question. If he would have never gave Ricky Dragon the notes, said, study this is what we're doing, and instead just called it in the match, right? Do you think that today we'd still be saying that was the greatest match, one of the greatest matches in professional wrestling history? And again, it's a question because I'm not a professional wrestler, so I'm not going to say whether or not I agree or disagree. That's not my place to say that. Robbie?
It's possible because they were two of the best.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Steamboat, I never had the opportunity to work either one, but I know both of them were very good workers. So it's possible. I mean, think about, so Steamboat, think about people he's worked with. Did he have, where you ever went, wow, that match was bad? So he never really had a bad match.
Right.
So I mean, he was one of the most talented guys. He was one of the top guys. So yeah, they still could have because they both were top guys and talent. They both were very talented.
Right.
I mean, I never. The problem is the guys today's young kids. Everybody wants to get their spots in, so they don't watch like people work. So, like when I was growing up, you watched Flair, you watched Aaron, you watched the Road Warriors, you watched all these guys work. When it came time to work with them, you would go to them and say, what are we going to do? My finish, I'll call it in the ring. So you knew the finish, you knew what you were taking for the finish, and they would call it in the ring. And that was the same like when like working with the Midnight Express, when they said, okay, they tell you, okay, fire up, and you do your little comeback, and they cut you off it when they felt, okay, I gave you 2-3 moves, I'm cutting you off. But they would tell you when, to do your thing, or, whoever would give you something would give you your spot and then cut you off.
Right.
So they called it. They were the guys that were calling it in the ring. Like I said, I just think you read the crowd,
Right. Now the next one, and Grizzle, you know what? I think it'd be okay. You answer this as well. Actually, we start with Robbie first. You need agents who were wrestlers. I'm going to add to that. Do you think that you need agents who are wrestlers? Or do you think, Robbie, it would be okay that at the minimum, at these guys who were massive wrestling fans, who knew a lot about professional wrestling, who so happen to also be agents? Or doesn't it just strictly just be ex-professional wrestlers?
No, I would. You basically, I'm going to go even outside that box. You need somebody with a business sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna. If you're going to get an agent, you need somebody with a business sense that is going to look out for you.
Right.
So you need somebody to protect you. I'm gonna the wrestling. Some of them, yeah, if you got the right guy. But the problem is a lot of guys are in it for themselves.
Right.
So you take, let's say I take Vet. He was an ex-wrestler, and he may just be looking out for his best deal for him. He don't give a shit about me. He's going to look out for him. You get the wrong guy. I mean, there's, unfortunately, it's a business, but a lot of guys are just going to look out, so you have guys looking out for themselves, and I don't mean to come off harsh, but, I'm just the reality check.
Right. Yeah. Grizzle.
Okay. First off, I'm not sure. I might be wrong. I think Robbie might be misunderstanding what you mean by agent. Are you talking the guy in the back that's producing matches? Because that's what I'm taking it as. That's what I'm taking at is Rip is saying agents he's referring to agents as the people that are helping produce the match.
Yeah.
Not an agent like a sports agent that's representing you in a contract.
Then I took it wrong.
Okay.
Right.
That's where, okay. So,
so
you want to take another
I
shot at that, Robbie?
Completely wrong then. Yeah, you definitely not a fan. You'd want ex-wrestlers, guys that knew the business. So I misunderstood the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I caught it right, and I agree with Robbie.
See, I told you. What I tell you, we're not the brightest bulbs in the box.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with Robbie. You got to have a guy who, excuse me.
Go ahead, Grizzle.
You need to have a former wrestler to produce your match. If I'm, commissioning a painting and I want this gorgeous oil painting of my family, I'm not going to go to the kid down the street that works at the McDonald's. No, I'm going to go to an artist and go, okay, how do I do this? You want to go to someone who's done it, who knows what they're doing. So yeah, your agent's got to be wrestlers. A fan ain't going to be able to put together a match because they're not going to know psychology and spots and things like that. No, got to be a wrestler.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it goes much further than just agents. I think any position that is, the most essential, important positions in professional wrestling should be ex-professional wrestlers.
Now that I disagree with.
Well, but hold on. Because we see what happened with WCW by a guy who had a hand run the company that knew nothing about professional wrestling. He was a pizza fucking guy. Part of the reason why WCW, what happened to them. So I think that in some, I'm not saying all spots, but in some spots that are detrimental, that it should be people who came from the business. Grizzle?
I disagree. I should be people in some spots. Because if you look at it, creative on TV, that's an important spot in wrestling. Are we there? And in my opinion, when he was doing it, Freddie Prinze Jr., not a wrestler, huge wrestling fan though, was on the creative team and producing good television. So creatively, like to do storylines, tell stories, bring somebody in from out of Hollywood that's used to writing scripts, used to writing stories. Great, that's their forte. But as far as an actual wrestling match goes, yeah, and running a company, that's what Jim Herd sort of did. If you got good business sense and all that, which Herd did not. So Herd just didn't have good business sense to save his life.
Yeah.
So, if you're outside of wrestling, but you've got a smart business sense, like right now, look at TKO, they're making some fucking money, but they weren't in the business. So,
yeah, but look at the people that they are leaning on. I think having good businesses obviously is important, but I think a professional wrestling promotion, especially when it's as big as your WCW was, even WWE, I think it's important to have some. It's different than normal business. You have to have some wrestling knowledge. And back to the creative
you
side
can
of
have
it.
wrestling knowledge and not be in the ring, though.
Well,
But
I
you need
get that.
business sense to run the company.
Right. But that's what I said, some wrestling knowledge. And going back to Freddie Prinze Jr. on creative, you said the key most important thing, but he was a wrestling fan. So he took his fan of professional wrestling, combined it with what he was talented with, work Hollywood, part of being creative. But if you take a guy who knows nothing about professional wrestling, all he knows how to do is write stories, I don't know. I think that they may miss the mark. Robbie?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think to run a company, you definitely have to have business sense. Because if you don't have business sense, it doesn't matter how great your company is, you're gonna mismanage money or whatever. So but like to make matches and stuff, yes, you definitely need the ex wrestlers and stuff. Creative, yes, if you get like what Vet said, somebody out of Hollywood that knows how to write stories and has knowledge of how wrestling works, that definitely helps. But you could get by, like, let's say on creative, if they knew how to tell storylines and you put them with somebody else that was in the business, now you combine both their knowledge.
Right.
And
There you go.
So, even that would work, because you have the storyteller, the other guy knows, okay, this guy's telling my story. I know who to use in this and whatever, and we can use these people and go this route with it. So,
right.
But like Robbie said, they're often not the brightest balls in the box. So, you got this guy that, he might have had the greatest career in multiple titles and world champion, traveled the world. He could be I'm not going to say Ric Flair, but he could be a Ric Flair. But all he knows is how to wrestle and all that. And he had somebody else that handled his money for him. You're not going to go to that guy and go, fuck, you are one of the greatest. You are a multi-time champion. Here, run my multi-million-dollar company. You're not going to fucking do that.
Yeah.
So, you want somebody that has that business and knows how to run a company. You're not going to trust the guy that, even though he's the greatest wrestler on God's green earth, he may not have a lick of business sense.
Right. I won't mention names, but look at some of your smaller territories from back in the day and look at the guys some of them that were running the companies, very good wrestlers and stuff, but they also, when the bottom line came out of these storylines and stuff, the true story, a lot of them had money issues.
Right. Next, we're going to go with because of time, I'm only going to go through some of them. He says, this guy, really, drug tests? If they're on the shit, get them off the shit. In other words, don't wait until they fail a fucking drug test. Fucking just get them off the shit. Robbie?
Truthfully, in my opinion, you shouldn't even drug test them.
Wow.
I mean,
Damn.
well, we know half the guys are on testosterone anyways. I mean, if you're going to drug test, truthfully, if it was me running the company, I'd be looking for like recreational drugs, more so than steroids, because, you want your guys to look good.
Right.
And I mean and a lot of the fans have that perception that, oh, well, you can bench 400 pounds. Oh, you're using something. There is guys that are genetically strong. Right. I go out of the box again. One of the guys that I power lifted with, he was ranked 5th in the world. And, everybody was like, oh, he used, how much steroids did he use? How was this? But like the dude squatted over 1,100 pounds and benched over 800 pounds and deadlifted over 800 pounds. I look at those people and go, do you think you could like take stuff, you could take, there's no amount of stuff you could take and think you're going to unrack that 1,100 pounds. So there's so much more involved in that stuff. I mean, you got a guy right now benching 1,300 pounds. You think about tendon strength and this and that. And I mean, how many people you're going to take, you can't even take, if you took it out of the rack, could your shoulders hold that? Right. So yes, it's an aid, but there's so much more involved in that stuff,
So basically,
I would, if it was me looking for, I would look for the recreational stuff. I'm not so concerned about the steroids as much. You want your guys to look good.
So basically, any type of drug that someone is using that can potentially cause harm to the other talent that there are in the ring. So if it's a drug that will prevent them from being safe in the ring, they shouldn't be on.
Yeah, well, I mean, but look at my era. How many guys were like coked up when they came in the ring? I mean, they knew how to handle it because I worked with a few of those guys that were coked out of their brains and stuff. And,
some of the greatest.
Yes, I mean, you were nothing happened to you, and they were very good, and it amazes you, how they pulled it off. Yeah. But then you look at when God rest his soul, Kerry, and look at, because he became a liability because of that. Right. So it works. It's a fifth. It's just some guys can handle it, some guys can't.
Yeah, Grizzle.
They need the drug test, not only for the safety of the talent, but the safety, the other talent, but the safety of the guy himself. Because later on down the road, those steroids, they're going to break down. They're going to kill you. You want to look good, but I don't agree with it. So drug testing is necessary.
And we kind of talked about this earlier. Stop 90% of the 2.9 count kick outs. And we talked about this earlier. Make it special. Make it that it's your main event, right? Not every goddamn match. Robbie?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Not every match, your main event or a special match, say, okay, whatever, you're having something that's the semi-main and it's a very special match or whatever. You look and say, okay, this is the match that means the most on the card, and let's go with here,
Right. Just a couple more questions. Grizzle, what do you think about that?
They're necessary. You can do them. Just don't do like 7 or 8 of them in one match. Even if it's the main event, you're overdoing it. You're taking away the thrill of the 1, 2. Oh, you're taking away if you see it 7 times in one match.
Right. The next thing, and I really thought about this, and I'm guilty of this. And we'll talk about this in a second. Stop being so smooth on moves and bumps. It's a contest. Treat it as such. Anything too smooth is a work. And God damn it, he's right. Because I thought about this. And Robbie, I want your opinion on this because I've heard you, and it's fine that you do it. You're a professional wrestler. But I've done it, and I shouldn't do it. I'm a hypocrite because I say fans shouldn't do it. Oh, they kind of messed up in the ring. They slipped and did, they messed up in this move. God, you know what? They should. Because you're saying that you want us to look at this as legit fighting in the ring. When have you ever watched a legit fucking fight and it was fucking a smooth fight? You make mistakes, it happens in the heat of the battle, right?
Right.
Your thoughts on that?
Here's the thing, and I'm gonna steal the words from somebody, and I won't. I'm not. I probably should use his name to give him credit, but I'm just gonna take his words. Is he said the same thing? He hates when he hears botch and stuff like that. He goes, it's a one take, and it's when you just you're doing it in the ring. So say I'm calling that spot. Let's I'm going to go through the ropes. I'm going to do the suicide dive, and I hit the ropes and I fall on my face outside. It's a one take. You get one take, and sometimes you don't. That one take, you don't get it right. Right. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. once you kind of talk it out and hearing that, and it is, and to go back and go, okay, you know, like I've had people go, like when I did my tables, ladders, and chairs match, somebody goes, well, how many times did you practice it? I go, never. It was, you did it in the ring, because if you practiced it, you wouldn't do it because it hurt. You know, I mean, the ladders hurt.
Right.
You know, I don't know. You know, I'm curious to know in WWE or AEW if those ladders are gimmicked. Our ladders weren't gimmicked. They were real ladders and they hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Grizzle, what do you think about that? Do you think that, you know, fans should be saying that shit? Because you watch a real fucking fight, you know, legit fight, it's not all smooth. It's ugly. Fights are ugly.
Well, yeah. And I was going to say, Robbie, are we attaining those words to, I don't know, a certain singer of a heavy metal band is touring
Jericho.
currently?
I'll just say it was Jericho.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a Jericho thing. I've read that same speech. You know, they call it a botch. He flat out said, I fucking hate the word botch.
Right.
You know, do you, oh, I made a mistake. Oh, you botched. And like, whatever. You know, no, you're a fight. You know, KG, you worked in the bars. I was a bouncer too. Sometimes if you're scrapping with the dude, it ain't pretty. It's gonna, you know, and somebody's watching you going, oh, you botched that. No, I made a mistake and had to, you know, correct myself and throw the fucker out the door.
Yeah.
Same thing in wrestling. I'm not gonna point at wrestling and go, oh, you botched. That's not my say. I might go, oh, well, they fucked that up, but which they did, but I'm not gonna like make a point of it.
Right. Now, two more questions. The last one is going to be a little bit controversial.
Ooh.
And this, I've said this before. As a fan, I miss them doing it, and they haven't done it in a long time. They used to do this as a kid. Go off the air with a match already in progress. You know, watching
that was a
every week
thing.
because it made me look forward to. I couldn't wait to the following week to find out what fucking happened. Real quick before you mention, Granny, Hulkster Granny says, "Hello guys, just getting on here. Had a meeting tonight. Well, thank you for joining us anyway. I appreciate it.
We had the greatest show of all time tonight, Granny Hulkster. KG and I were very eloquent, talked in just, you know, Tony Khan called in. Fucking amazing guy.
Yeah, he wants to hire us. Robbie?
Yeah, no, because they would do that. And, you know, I don't know if it was a territory thing or not, but yeah, they would do that stuff, you know, on Florida Championship Wrestling. And as a kid, you're like, I can't wait till next Saturday. What happened? You know, and you had to wait till next Saturday to find out what happened. I think it had the excitement.
Grizzle, do you think that would work in today's world, in a world where self-gratification immediately is a thing?
It wouldn't work in today's world because somebody would just post a video of what happened on their social media.
Right.
And we'd know about it 5 minutes after the show ended. What I'm talking about, it may not be referring to what you're speaking of, but it's an old territory thing. Portland Wrestling did it. San Francisco did it. I'm not sure if they did it in Florida, Robbie. I'm not positive.
Oh, yeah, Florida did it.
Yeah,
but you would have your live show from the Armory in Portland, and they would show the matches.
Yeah.
And you would know what the main event was. And you see the guys coming out for the main event or whatever, and the main event starting. That would be the end of the match. That would be the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because they wanted you to buy the ticket and go to the show next week. So they weren't going to give you the main event. They would give you everything leading up to it, you know, because it was live from wherever they were at in the Armory or whatever, but they wouldn't give you the main event. You wanted to see the main event. You wanted to see the World Heavyweight Championship. You had to buy the ticket. Because at that point in time in territory, TV, that was advertising. That wasn't the show. That was your advertising to get people to buy tickets to go to the weekly shows, which is where you made your fucking money.
Yeah. And, you know, in Mid-South Wrestling, the way they do it, the main event probably have a good 5 minutes. And they would get to the spot of the main event where you're way up here. Things were getting crazy. And then it would go off air.
Yeah. But it makes you want to buy a ticket to go see what's going to happen next week. Because, like I said, TV was advertising back then.
Now, the next one is a little controversial, I think. Robbie, he says, have commentary bury guys who just want to do big moves and get their shit in. In other words, if you're going out there in the ring and you're just all about big spots, color commentary is just ripping you an asshole and burying you. You don't have a career.
Nah, I disagree on that one. I have to disagree because a lot of your wrestlers, a lot of the guys do big spots now. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's part of wrestling nowadays. So you can't, you can't have those guys like ripping them. I mean, I disagree on that one. Just because a lot of your guys do big spots.
Yeah. Grizzle.
I agree with Robbie. You can't do that. The job of a color commentary and the play-by-play is to sell the match, is to show what's going on and tell the story. You're supposed to make, what they're doing in the ring. You're supposed to make it look good. You're supposed to make it sound good. You're supposed to be able to close your eyes and see what's going on. If the guy's shitting all over the dude, that's not putting anybody over and makes your product look like trash. And no promoter with any sense is going to let their commentary team do that. They're not going to let you bury their product on television, because the object is you're supposed to sell the product on TV and make this guy look good, make it look like he should be the number one contender, not shit all over him because he's doing, multiple spots in one match.
Right. I mean, but that's why, and you got your color comment. You have, as much as we've talked about them and saying don't like them or whatever, but like Corey Graves, Booker T, Nigel, you have them where they kind of side on the heel side, so they're putting those guys over and they're kind of cutting down the baby faces. So, but they've, no, to go at a guy for his moves and stuff like that, I mean, no.
Guys, that's going to end our episode tonight. Next Thursday, guys, we're going to go over the last 10 questions, 10 more questions, and we're going to go over the last 10 questions. Again, one of the legends, Rip Rogers, his thoughts on today's professional wrestling and what he thinks should be taken out of it. Laurie says that Miss Granny Holster says, I'm going to get help with a wrestling show in May where Granny Holster gets to be the GM for the night. That's awesome. Congratulations.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie, what you got going on?
We got a few things. So got an upcoming podcast. I was on Wrestling with Heart, so it should be coming out hopefully in this coming week. And then May 9th, of course, wrestling at the Twisted Fork. I'm not sure if, I think we're the main event, which would be the Bunkhouse Brawl elimination, a 6-man. But he also has thrown a battle royal, so I'm not sure where they're doing that. So I know the battle royal, but you got that. And if you go to Amazon Kindle and go buy my book, and you'll get some of the stuff that goes on between all of us on here.
Grizzle, I know you do a show every Sunday.
I do. Sundays at noon, Pioneer 90.1 FM, KSRQ. Stream it live, radionorthland.org. Search for it on the TuneIn Radio app. Just search Pioneer Radio, Pioneer 90.1, or download the Pioneer Community Radio app, which has all 4 of the Pioneer Community family stations. This week, we're talking to Brian R. Solomon, the author of Irresistible Force, The Life and Times of Gorilla Monsoon, which won the Wrestling Observer Book of the Year award from the fans. So we're talking with him. David Zahadi's coming up, and Glenn Braga and I are working on a new project to kind of intermingle with Rasslin Memories, which I will be talking about in the near future.
Yeah, guys, and also please subscribe or follow me on Facebook, KG Landry, and also follow us on Facebook, Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast. I put out writings quite often that I put out there, and also Grizzled Vet. We also have a page. Tell them where they can find that at.
We do. You can find the writings of KG Landry at getyourBellRung.blogspot.com. Not all of them, but the better musings of KG Landry available all in one spot. Don't have to search, don't have to scroll. And folks, once you start clicking on that, you might see an advertisement. Click on that, and KG and I might make a few pennies.
Yeah, cool.
Moving Absolutely. Up in the world.
Yeah, we are. Guys, again, please subscribe to the podcast, and we will be back tomorrow night.
Go home for the Elimination Chamber. This better be fucking good.
Yeah. Yep. We'll be talking about the Go Home show, and as well as we're going to put out our quick little predictions for the Elimination Chamber, which will be Saturday night. Also, part 2, Saturday live at, I think, 3 p.m. Central. I'm going to have Mike Kinney back on the show, who he's a former professional wrestler. Also, he's a motivational speaker. You don't want to miss that. And he's an incredible man. He talks a lot about what to do when you get to a point in your life that you just may have to change your career. How to deal with that, how to handle that. Part 1 was great. It's out. You can find it on YouTube. Or
I really enjoyed part 1, actually. Really good.
Facebook. You can find it on Facebook as well. Until then, guys, we will see you tomorrow night. You guys have a great Friday. Good night, gentlemen.
See you tomorrow.